For 90 years, a team of archaeologists meticulously excavated a specific hill near Stonehenge. They spent entire careers cataloging stones and mapping soil, fully believing they were uncovering ancient secrets. Then, a group of geologists reviewed the site and delivered a crushing verdict. The archaeologists had spent nearly a century digging on the wrong hill. That story hits a specific human nerve. We are terrified of spending our limited energy and dedicating our entire lives to an objective, only to realize at the end of the career that we chose the wrong hill. Most of us operate on a cultural default known as the gain framework. This operating system programs us to continually optimize for future milestones, sacrificing our current comfort on the assumption that the payoff will be worth it later. The entire structure relies on a single premise: accumulating enough wealth, hitting a specific job title, or reaching a designated level of efficiency will eventually unlock lasting, permanent peace. Thousands of years ago, the author of the biblical book of Ecclesiastes analyzed this exact pursuit of achievement and concluded it was entirely futile. He called it a vapor, something that appears solid from a distance but vanishes the moment you try to hold it. When daily life is treated strictly as a transaction, a currency spent today to buy a better tomorrow, the present reality is guaranteed to feel meaningless. We fall into the when-then fallacy, the psychological habit of deferring our baseline happiness until a specific external condition is met. We tell ourselves we will relax when the mortgage is paid off, or we will enjoy our family when the big project launches. History suggests this condition is never actually met. John D. Rockefeller built a fortune worth hundreds of billions in today's currency. Yet, when asked how much money it would take to finally be enough, he gave a remarkably honest answer: just a little bit more. Decades later, corporate titan Lee Iacocca reached the absolute peak of industry fame and wealth. Reflecting on his life, he admitted that those metrics, the money and the prestige, ultimately amounted to very little personal satisfaction. We see the exact same pattern today. Kendrick Lamar achieved immense wealth, global fame, and cultural influence. He bought the mansions and the infinity pools, but as he notes in his own lyrics, he still found himself filled with grief, trapped in a world that felt like a psychological cul-de-sac. If the most successful people across completely different eras and industries arrive at the peak of the gain framework and find it hollow, the operating system itself is likely broken. The flaw is not in how they executed the plan. The flaw is the plan itself. To understand why this fails, we have to look at the mechanics of the gain framework. The primary required input is the active suppression of your present contentment. You stay slightly dissatisfied to maintain your drive. In the short term, this works. That manufactured anxiety successfully motivates high initial output, forcing you to hit deadlines and rapidly acquire your goals. But you quickly hit a structural flaw, the hedonic treadmill. Human beings are highly adaptive. The moment you achieve the goal, your brain normalizes the new environment, immediately neutralizing the joy of the achievement. We can map this directly on a matrix. The input of deferring happiness does yield the outcome of rapid achievement, but it causes a secondary reaction. The psychological goalpost instantly moves the second your objective is reached. You face a permanent trade-off. You are sacrificing your daily lived experience, the actual minutes of your life, for a horizon that constantly recedes. You run faster, and the target moves further away. This creates the final state, the burned-out optimizer. You operate at peak efficiency, clearing tasks and managing projects flawlessly, but you feel completely emotionally disconnected from the work you are doing. You are trapped in an infinite loop of desire. There is always another problem to solve, another milestone to hit, and another reason why today is not quite good enough to enjoy. Optimizing solely for the future is mathematically flawed. It relegates your actual life to a waiting room for a reality that never arrives. This achievement mindset often migrates from the office into the home, corrupting personal relationships as we begin to treat family members like variables to be managed. This creates the resentful caretaker. The caretaker's core input is attempting to fix, control, or absorb the emotions of everyone else, sacrificing their own boundaries to ensure the environment remains frictionless. Look at how this operates as a closed loop. You step in to fix an external problem. This engineers a temporary peace. But because you are carrying weight that isn't yours, it leads to personal exhaustion, which immediately loops right back to you needing to fix the next external problem. The trade-off here is severe. By taking responsibility for external variables you cannot actually control, you completely sacrifice your own autonomy and invite chronic resentment. Treating the happiness of others as a metric that you have to achieve will eventually exhaust your emotional capacity to experience your own life. Breaking the cycle of achievement requires a shift toward a gift or receiving framework, a model that extracts value from the immediate process rather than future milestones. The required input for this shift is detachment. You have to uncouple your sense of meaning from your external outcomes. Psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl documented this extensively. He observed that human beings are capable of extracting meaning from their current circumstances, regardless of how deeply imperfect or painful those circumstances are. The primary outcome of the gift framework is finding immediate joy in the journey. You begin deriving an emotional return from mundane routines, like drinking a cup of coffee or performing a repetitive task, by viewing them as gifts to be experienced rather than hurdles to be cleared. But it requires a difficult trade-off. You have to endure the ego death of surrendering absolute control over the future. You must accept that you cannot force the world to align perfectly with your timeline. Sitting with the discomfort of an imperfect present is the price of admission for sustainable resilience and genuine connection. Healthy ambition follows a core rule. Goals are necessary to give you directional momentum, but they are disastrous when used as your ultimate source of personal meaning. We can use a simple scorecard to diagnose how the GAIN framework is currently sabotaging your daily routine and map out the exact tactics needed to shift your baseline. If you fall into the burned out optimizer category, your ambition is valid. What is broken is your timeline expectation. You are waiting for the work to finish before you allow yourself to feel good. Your specific behavioral shift is forceful reframing. You must look at repetitive tasks and label them as temporary privileges rather than permanent burdens. You swap "I have to do this" with "I get to do this," shifting your focus away from the anxiety of the outcome and grounding it in the reality of the process neutralizes performance burnout without killing your ambition. If you are a when-then planner, you have to abandon the myth that a perfect day exists somewhere in the future. The truth is, the conditions will never be flawless. Your necessary input is identifying exactly one positive anchor in your current reality every single day. You intentionally look for the utility or the beauty in the exact situation you are standing in right now. This simple framing shift reclaims your personal agency over your baseline joy. You bypass the need for external conditions to be met before you are allowed to be content. We cannot control the macro outcomes of our careers or the delays in our plans. But we possess 100% control over the psychological frame we apply to those events. You have a choice. You can spend 40 years treating your life as a grueling excavation for a hidden treasure on a distant hill. Or you can choose to view the ability to hold the shovel as the treasure itself. Ultimately, moving from achieving to receiving determines whether the years ahead are spent merely enduring a lifespan or actually enjoying it.